"You're a lot taller than I expected." What happened next astonished her. Wild West stories. She often imagined wide open spaces, dusty roads, and towns where anything could happen at any moment. Her curiosity about the unknown was stronger than her fear. One bright morning, she decided to leave her familiar surroundings behind and journey to a small town in the Wild West, a place she had only read about in letters and books. The town was tiny, just a few streets lined with wooden buildings, but it carried the promise of adventure and stories that she could tell for years to come. As she walked down the main street, Clara noticed how different everything looked from what she was used to. The sun was bright and warm, casting long shadows behind the buildings and people. Horses trotted past her, pulling carriages or carrying their riders with a steady, rhythmic motion. The air smelled faintly of hay, leather, and dust, a mixture that somehow felt alive and full of possibility. Children ran along the edges of the street, playing simple games, while shopkeepers cleaned their windows or arranged goods outside their stores. It all felt like stepping into a different world, one full of energy and life, yet rough around the edges. Curiosity pulled Clara toward the town's saloon. She had heard stories about saloons, places filled with laughter, music, and sometimes trouble, but she wasn't afraid. She wanted to see the life inside, to feel the pulse of the town in a place that seemed to hold so many stories. As she approached, she noticed people gathered outside, talking quietly but with intensity in their voices. It was as if something was about to happen, and she wanted to see it firsthand. Just as she stepped closer, her eyes caught sight of a man standing near the saloon doors. He was leaning casually against the wooden frame, watching the crowd with calm, sharp eyes. Clara froze for a moment. She had been told about this man by a few locals before she arrived, a stranger who had been passing through town. They had said he was tall, but nothing could have prepared her for the reality. The man towered above everyone else, his broad shoulders and strong build making him look almost like a gentle giant. His presence was commanding, yet there was a calmness about him that made him seem approachable, even kind. Before she could stop herself, Clara blurted out, "You're a lot taller than I expected." The words slipped out in surprise, and for a moment she worried that she had sounded rude. But instead of looking offended, the man smiled. It wasn't a forced smile. It was warm, quiet, and reassuring. There was a friendliness in his eyes that immediately put Clara at ease. He tipped his hat slightly in acknowledgement, a simple gesture that made her feel like he understood her curiosity rather than judging it. "Most people say the same thing," he replied in a deep, calm voice that somehow matched his size. "I guess I don't blend in very well." His words were simple, but the way he said them carried a kind of honesty that made Clara nod in agreement. She felt an unexpected sense of comfort around him, even though they had just met. There was something unusual in the way he carried himself, a mix of confidence, strength, and gentleness that drew her in. Clara introduced herself, and the man introduced himself as Jack. Their conversation started slowly, with small talk about the town, the weather, and their travels. But as they spoke, Clara realized there was more to Jack than she had first noticed. He listened carefully, responding thoughtfully, never rushing the conversation or trying to impress. He seemed genuinely interested in what she had to say, and this made Clara feel valued and respected. As they talked, Clara noticed that people in the town were watching them. Some were curious, others wary, but most seemed impressed by Jack's calm demeanor. He didn't boast or try to intimidate anyone with his size, yet the respect he commanded was undeniable. Clara found herself proud to be standing next to him, and at the same time, a little in awe. There was a sense of mystery about Jack, and she couldn't help but want to know more about him and the life he had lived to become the person he was today. The conversation shifted naturally toward the daily life of the town. Jack mentioned that he had been traveling for many months, helping people where he could and learning from the different towns he passed through. Clara shared her own reasons for traveling, explaining that she wanted to see the world beyond her small town and experience the stories she had only read about. Jack nodded, listening with genuine interest, and occasionally adding a small detail about his own experiences that made Clara laugh or think more deeply. Time seemed to pass quickly as they walked along the dusty streets together. Clara noticed how Jack interacted with others, how he smiled politely at shopkeepers, nodded respectfully at children, and greeted strangers with a kind word. There was a natural ease in the way he moved through the town, as if he belonged everywhere yet nowhere at the same time. Clara found this fascinating. She realized that his height and strength were just one part of who he was. What truly made Jack remarkable was his character, the way he treated people, the calm confidence he carried, and the subtle sense of humor that made everyone feel at ease. As the afternoon sun began to lower in the sky, casting golden light across the town, Clara and Jack found themselves near a small, wooden fountain at the center of the square. People were going about their business, but there was a sense of peace in that moment, a feeling that nothing else mattered except the conversation they were having. Clara felt a strange mix of excitement and calm. Meeting Jack had been unexpected, but it felt like one of those rare moments in life when everything aligns perfectly. The right place, the right time, and the right person. She couldn't help but notice small details about him. The way his eyes seemed to miss nothing, the quiet confidence in his movements, and the easy kindness that made him approachable despite his towering presence. Every time he spoke, he seemed to offer more than just words. There was a sense of wisdom, experience, and understanding behind them. Clara found herself wanting to learn more, to hear the stories behind those eyes, and to understand the life that had shaped such an unusual yet fascinating man. Their conversation eventually turned toward the saloon itself. Jack mentioned that he often observed people there, learning about them without getting involved in unnecessary trouble. Clara laughed softly, admitting that she had always been curious about the lively energy of saloons, but never had the courage to enter them alone. Jack smiled, his eyes twinkling slightly, and offered to accompany her inside. Clara felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. She had imagined many adventures, but nothing quite like this. Walking into a saloon beside a man who was taller and more confident than anyone she had ever met. As they stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted immediately. The room was lively, filled with laughter, conversation, and the occasional sound of piano music from the corner. People glanced at them as they entered, but Jack's calm presence seemed to ease any tension. He led the way to a small table near the back, and Clara followed, feeling both nervous and thrilled. The smell of wood, tobacco, and a hint of strong coffee filled the air, creating a unique ambience that was at once welcoming and a little intimidating. Sitting down, Clara noticed how Jack's presence seemed to make the room feel safer, almost as if his height and calm demeanor were enough to command respect without a single aggressive word. She realized that her initial surprise at his size had shifted into admiration. There was something remarkable about the way he carried himself, a combination of strength, kindness, and quiet confidence that made him stand out without needing to shout or demand attention. As they talked and sipped a simple drink, Clara felt a connection growing between them. The kind of connection that comes from shared curiosity, mutual respect, and the excitement of the unknown. She had met many people in her life, but few had left such a strong impression so quickly. Jack had managed to surprise her in ways she hadn't expected, not just with his height, but with his warmth, intelligence, and gentle humor. By the time the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the town, Clara felt a sense of anticipation. She knew that this encounter was only the beginning of something extraordinary. Meeting Jack had opened a door to adventure, mystery, and unexpected friendship. She couldn't have guessed what would happen next, but she felt ready to face it. knowing that with someone like Jack by her side, the world might just become a place full of surprising stories, excitement, and unforgettable experiences. As they stepped back outside into the cool evening air, Clara looked up at Jack one more time, marveling at his towering presence and the calm confidence he radiated. She smiled, realizing that first impressions could be deceiving. The man she had expected to be just tall and intimidating had turned out to be someone far more fascinating, kind, and intriguing than she could have imagined. And in that moment, she felt the thrill of knowing that the adventure of this unexpected encounter was only just beginning. After their first meeting, Clara found herself thinking about Jack constantly. There was something about him that stayed with her, something beyond his height and calm demeanor. She remembered the warmth in his smile, the quiet confidence in the way he moved, and the kindness that seemed to radiate from him without effort. It was unusual to meet someone like that in a small Wild West town, where most people kept to themselves, wary of strangers. Clara felt a mix of curiosity and excitement. She wanted to know more about Jack, but she also sensed that there was more to him than met the eye, something waiting to reveal itself. The next morning, Clara wandered back to the main street of the town. The sun had just risen, casting a golden glow over the wooden buildings, making the dust in the air sparkle. She loved mornings in new towns when everything felt fresh and full of possibility. She hoped to see Jack again, though she didn't know if he would be around. As she walked past the saloon, she noticed him standing near the edge of the street, talking quietly to a group of townspeople. Jack's presence immediately drew attention. Even in the bright morning sunlight, his towering figure and calm confidence set him apart from everyone else. The townspeople looked at him with a mix of curiosity and respect. Some nodded in greeting, others whispered to one another, and a few simply watched in silence. Clara approached slowly, not wanting to interrupt, but also not wanting to miss the chance to speak with him. When he saw her, he smiled warmly, giving her a small nod that made her heart skip a beat. "Good morning, Clara," he said. His voice was calm, steady, and reassuring, just as she remembered it from the day before. "You're up early." "I could say the same about you," Clara replied, smiling. "The town seems alive this morning." Jack laughed softly. "It always is in its own way," he said. "But there's more to it than usual today. You might notice a bit of tension." Clara followed his gaze and saw a few men standing a little way down the street. They weren't part of the townspeople she had seen the day before. Their clothes were rough, dusty, and patched in places. Their eyes held a sharpness, and the way they carried themselves suggested they were used to getting what they wanted. Clara felt a small shiver of unease. Something about them felt dangerous. "What are they doing here?" she asked quietly. Jack's expression grew serious. "That's the problem," he said. "A gang has been causing trouble in nearby towns. They've been stealing, threatening people, and making life difficult for anyone who crosses their path. They're passing through here, and they don't like anyone standing in their way." Clara felt a mixture of fear and fascination. She had read stories about gangs in the Wild West, about towns being taken over by groups of troublemakers, but she had never imagined witnessing it herself. Her heart raced, but at the same time she felt a strange sense of excitement. This was the kind of adventure she had hoped for, even if it was more dangerous than she had expected. Jack noticed her unease and smiled gently. "Don't worry, I've dealt with people like this before. But it's important to stay cautious." Clara nodded, grateful for his calm presence. She realized that his height and strength were not the only things that made him remarkable. It was his courage, his intelligence, and his ability to stay calm under pressure. She felt safer with him nearby, even though she knew that danger was real. As the gang drew closer, the tension in the town grew. Shopkeepers closed their doors, and townspeople hurried to their homes or gathered in small groups, whispering to one another. The air felt heavy, charged with anticipation. Clara watched as Jack stepped forward, his towering figure calm and unthreatening, yet commanding enough to draw attention. He didn't raise his voice or act aggressively, but there was an unmistakable presence about him, a strength that seemed to say he would not back down. The gang approached with a mix of arrogance and confidence. They didn't expect resistance in such a small town, and for a moment they seemed unsure of how to react to Jack. Clara watched as he spoke to them quietly, his voice firm but calm. He didn't threaten or insult them. Instead, he appealed to reason, reminding them that the town was under the protection of people who would not allow harm. At first, the gang laughed, thinking it was a joke, but Jack's steady gaze and unwavering tone made them pause. Clara could see the surprise in their eyes. They had expected fear or submission, not quiet confidence. Slowly, they realized that Jack was not someone to underestimate. Without a single act of violence, he had established control over the situation. Clara felt a mix of awe and admiration. She had expected danger to be loud and chaotic, but Jack had handled it with intelligence, courage, and calmness. She realized that true bravery wasn't about being loud or showing strength. It was about understanding the situation, staying calm, and acting with purpose. Jack was a living example of that lesson, and she couldn't help but feel inspired. After the gang finally moved on, muttering threats as they left, the townspeople slowly came out of their homes and shops. They looked at Jack with gratitude and respect. Some nodded, some shook his hand, and others offered small tokens of appreciation. Clara noticed that his demeanor didn't change. He remained calm, humble, and kind, as if the incident had been just another part of life. Clara approached him, her curiosity stronger than ever. "That was amazing," she said. "You didn't even raise your voice, and yet they listened to you." Jack smiled. "Sometimes the right words and calm actions are stronger than any weapon," he replied. "People respond to confidence and respect more than they do to threats." Clara nodded thoughtfully. She realized that the town had just witnessed something extraordinary. She had expected an intimidating confrontation, but what had happened instead was a lesson in courage, intelligence, and leadership. Jack's height may have drawn her attention at first, but it was his character that left a lasting impression. As the day continued, Clara found herself following Jack at a respectful distance, watching how he interacted with the townspeople. He helped a shopkeeper lift a heavy crate, gave directions to a lost traveler, and even calmed a frightened horse without raising his voice. Clara was fascinated by the way he moved through the town, not as an outsider, but as someone who belonged everywhere yet stood apart because of his quiet strength. She realized that Jack's presence was reassuring not just to her, but to the entire town. People trusted him, respected him, and looked to him for guidance. Clara had expected to be impressed by his height, but she was far more impressed by his character, the way he treated others, the calm confidence he carried, and the quiet kindness that made him approachable despite his size. By the afternoon, Clara and Jack found themselves near the edge of the town, overlooking a small canyon that bordered the dusty streets. The view was breathtaking, the sun glinting off the rocks, the wind carrying the scent of sagebrush and earth, and the quiet hum of life from the town behind them. Clara felt a sense of peace in that moment, a feeling that despite the danger, she was exactly where she needed to be. Jack noticed her thoughtful expression and spoke softly. "You've handled today well," he said. "It's not easy to stay calm when danger is near." Clara smiled, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "I've had a good teacher," she replied. "Watching you today, I've learned a lot about courage and calmness." Jack's eyes twinkled with amusement. "We all learn from those around us," he said. "Sometimes the most unexpected encounters teach us the most." Clara nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. Meeting Jack had been unexpected, yet it had already changed her perspective. She had come to the town seeking adventure, but what she found was far more valuable: insight into courage, leadership, and the strength that comes from calm confidence. As the sun began to set, casting long shadows across the canyon and the town, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She knew that the days ahead would bring more challenges and unexpected events, but she felt ready. With Jack's guidance and presence, she felt stronger, braver, and more curious than ever. That evening, as the town settled into quiet, Clara reflected on the day's events. She realized that the true adventure was not just in the danger they had faced, but in the people they encountered, the lessons they learned, and the connections they made. Jack had surprised her in ways she hadn't expected, not just with his height, but with his wisdom, courage, and kindness. She felt lucky to have met him, and she knew that this was only the beginning of a story that would change her life forever. Clara went asleep that night with a sense of excitement and anticipation. She had faced fear, witnessed courage, and learned the power of calm confidence. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, new surprises, and perhaps new lessons. But she also knew one thing for certain. She wanted Jack by her side, not just as a companion, but as someone from whom she could continue learning and growing. And so, the first day of their shared adventure came to a close, leaving Clara with a heart full of curiosity, respect, and admiration, and a mind eager for the stories yet to unfold in the dusty, unpredictable world of the Wild West. The morning air was crisp and carried the smell of dust, hay, and the faint aroma of coffee from the town's small shops. Clara awoke with a sense of anticipation. Yesterday had been full of surprises, and she could feel that today would bring even more. The events with the gang had left her both shaken and exhilarated. She had seen Jack in action, calm and strong in the face of danger, and she knew she had a lot to learn from him. But she also felt a growing curiosity. What else lay ahead in this unpredictable town, and what adventures awaited her now? Clara dressed quickly, eager to get outside and see what the day would bring. She wandered down the wooden streets, enjoying the sound of horses' hooves clattering against the planks and the chatter of townspeople beginning their day. She felt a growing sense of independence, of being capable of handling whatever came her way, especially with Jack nearby. Her mind raced with possibilities, perhaps more encounters with the gang, perhaps a new mystery, or perhaps a chance to prove her own courage in ways she hadn't imagined. As she neared the town square, Clara spotted Jack again. He was speaking with the local blacksmith, discussing repairs and supplies needed for the town. Despite his calm demeanor, Clara noticed a spark of alertness in his eyes, a subtle signal that he was aware of every movement around him, watching for any sign of trouble. She approached quietly, not wanting to interrupt, but Jack's eyes found hers immediately. His smile was warm, reassuring, and somehow gave her the courage to step forward without fear. "Good morning," she said, keeping her voice steady. "Good morning," Jack replied. "Ready for today's adventure?" Clara laughed softly, though a part of her felt nervous. "I suppose I am," she said, "though I'm not sure what awaits us." Jack nodded knowingly. "That's the beauty of it," he said. "We never really know what will happen, but we can face it together." Before Clara could respond, a commotion erupted at the far end of the street. The gang from yesterday had returned, more confident this time, striding through the town with a sense of entitlement. They were louder, more aggressive, and clearly prepared to cause trouble. Clara felt her heart race, but she stood tall, knowing that Jack's presence was steady and reassuring. Jack immediately moved forward, placing himself between the gang and the townspeople. Clara noticed how effortlessly he took charge, not by intimidation, but through calm authority. He spoke to the gang leaders in a firm but measured voice, reminding them that the town would not tolerate violence or theft. The gang laughed at first, but Clara could see hesitation flicker across their faces. Jack's confidence, combined with his towering presence, created a force that words alone could not describe. Clara's curiosity got the better of her, and she followed at a safe distance as Jack negotiated with the gang. She noticed the subtle ways he read their body language, adjusting his tone and approach based on their reactions. He never raised his voice unnecessarily, never threatened, yet the gang seemed unsure of how to respond. Clara felt a mix of awe and admiration. She had expected chaos, but what unfolded was a delicate dance of strategy, courage, and intelligence. Despite Jack's efforts, the gang grew impatient. They began to threaten the townspeople, their voices rising, their hands twitching toward weapons. Clara's heart pounded. She had always imagined adventures as exciting but safe, like the stories in books, yet this was real, and the danger felt very real. She wanted to run, to hide, but something inside her urged her to stay, to watch, and to learn. Jack glanced back at her, noticing the mixture of fear and determination in her eyes. He nodded slightly, a silent signal that it was okay to be brave, to stand and observe, to learn from the situation. Clara took a deep breath, steadying herself. She realized that courage wasn't the absence of fear, it was the ability to act despite fear. And right now, she was learning that lesson firsthand. The gang, growing bolder, suddenly made a move toward the town's small supply shop. Jack reacted instantly, stepping in to block their path. His presence alone seemed to give the townspeople the courage to move behind him, seeking safety while remaining watchful. Clara felt a surge of admiration and inspiration. Jack wasn't just tall or strong. He was strategic, aware, and brave in ways that went far beyond physical ability. Seeing the situation escalate, Clara decided she couldn't remain passive. She noticed a small group of townspeople nearby, too afraid to act but clearly wanting to help. Clara approached them quietly and suggested a plan. Using her knowledge of the streets and buildings, she directed them to create barriers and distractions, helping to guide the gang away from vulnerable areas. Her heart raced, but she felt a sense of purpose. For the first time, she realized she could contribute, that she had value in the midst of chaos. Jack noticed her efforts and gave a small, approving nod. He didn't interrupt, didn't take over, but allowed her to act independently, offering subtle guidance only when necessary. Clara felt a deep respect for him, not just as a protector but as a mentor and partner. Together, they formed a silent, unspoken team, each aware of the other's abilities and strengths. The gang, frustrated by the townspeople's resistance and Clara's clever distractions, began to lose confidence. Jack used the opportunity to speak with their leader, offering a calm but firm ultimatum. Clara watched in amazement as the gang's leader hesitated, clearly weighing the risks. Jack's intelligence, strategy, and quiet authority had created a turning point. The gang finally decided to leave, muttering threats as they retreated toward the outskirts of town. The townspeople erupted in quiet cheers, relief washing over the streets like a warm wave. Clara felt her heart soar with a mixture of exhilaration and pride. She had witnessed courage, intelligence, and strategy in action, and she had played a small role in helping the town withstand the threat. The lessons she learned that day were unforgettable. Bravery wasn't about acting recklessly, and strength wasn't only physical. True courage came from calm thinking, quick judgment, and working together with others. After the gang left, Clara and Jack walked through the streets, checking on the townspeople, making sure everyone was safe. Clara noticed the quiet respect that people gave Jack, not out of fear, but because of the integrity, intelligence, and courage he displayed. Children waved, adults nodded in gratitude, and even those who had been afraid yesterday now looked at him with admiration. Clara felt a deep sense of belonging in the town, knowing that she had been part of something important. Jack turned to Clara with a gentle smile. "You handled yourself well today," he said. "I could see that you were thinking, observing, and acting when needed." That's bravery in its truest form. Clara blushed slightly, feeling a mix of pride and humility. "I was scared," she admitted, But I didn't want to just stand there and do nothing. Jack nodded. That's exactly why you did the right thing. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite it. And today, you proved that you have plenty of it. As the sun began to dip low in the sky, painting the town in warm shades of orange and gold, Clara and Jack found a quiet spot near the edge of town. Horses grazed nearby, and the wind whispered softly through the sparse trees. Clara felt a sense of calm wash over her. The danger had passed, but the lessons remained. She realized that this town, with all its unpredictability and adventure, had become a place of growth, courage, and learning. Jack looked at her with a thoughtful expression. Today wasn't just about the gang, he said softly. It was about showing what people are capable of when they work together, when they face fear with intelligence and courage. You played a part in that, Clara. Don't forget it. Clara nodded, feeling the weight of his words. She understood that her adventure wasn't just about excitement or danger. It was about growth, understanding, and discovering what she was truly capable of. Jack had shown her that bravery could take many forms, from standing tall in the face of danger to quietly guiding others and making smart decisions under pressure. As the evening fell and the town settled into quiet, Clara reflected on the events of the day. She had seen courage in action, learned from Jack's wisdom, and even discovered her own strength. She realized that adventure wasn't only about excitement. It was about learning, growing, and facing the unknown with both bravery and intelligence. For the first time, Clara felt a true sense of partnership with Jack. He wasn't just someone she admired from a distance. He was someone who valued her abilities, trusted her instincts, and encouraged her to step into her own strength. She knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, and that knowledge gave her a sense of confidence she had never felt before. That night, as she lay in her small room at the inn, Clara thought about the day's adventure. She knew that the Wild West was full of unexpected twists, challenges, and dangers, but she also knew that she was ready. With Jack by her side, she felt capable of facing anything, learning from every experience and growing stronger with each passing day. And so, the adventure continued, with Clara stepping fully into her role as a brave, thoughtful, and capable partner in a world full of unpredictability, danger, and endless possibilities. She had learned the value of courage, intelligence, and trust, and she knew that the days ahead would bring even more opportunities to test herself, grow, and discover the true meaning of bravery in the Wild West. The days that followed were filled with both relief and curiosity. Clara felt the town slowly returning to its usual rhythm, the streets once again alive with the sound of horses, hooves, shopkeepers' calls, and children's laughter. Yet beneath the surface of this calm, Clara sensed that something more awaited her, something she didn't fully understand yet. Her encounters with Jack had already changed her perception of bravery, strength, and trust, but she felt that the true story behind him was still hidden, waiting to be revealed. One quiet morning, Clara found herself walking toward the outskirts of town. The sun had barely risen, casting a golden glow over the rolling hills and dusty trails. Birds chirped softly in the distance, and the air smelled faintly of earth and sagebrush. Clara had chosen this walk to reflect, to think about the days that had passed, and to prepare herself for whatever might come next. She needed to understand Jack, not just as a protector or companion, but as the man whose courage and calm had left such a deep impression on her. As she reached a small hill overlooking the town, she spotted Jack waiting near a large rock. He had been expecting her, and when their eyes met, he gave a small, welcoming smile. "Good morning," he said, his voice calm and steady as always. "I thought I might find you here." Clara returned his smile, feeling a sense of ease in his presence. "I needed some fresh air," she said, "and I wanted to think." Jack nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes thinking is the most important part of preparation," he said. "The mind needs as much care as the body, especially in a place like this." They sat together on the edge of the hill, watching the town below. The buildings looked smaller from this distance, the streets quiet except for the occasional sound of a horse or a wagon. Clara felt a strange mix of peace and anticipation. She wanted to know more about Jack, to understand the experiences that had shaped him into the calm, courageous man she admired. She hesitated for a moment, unsure if she should ask, but finally her curiosity got the better of her. "Jack," she began softly, "I've been meaning to ask, how did you become so strong, so calm, and so brave? There's something about you that feels different from anyone I've ever met." Jack looked at her for a long moment, his eyes reflecting a mixture of thoughtfulness and quiet pride. "It's not an easy story to tell," he said finally, "but I suppose it's time. You've seen a glimpse of it already, but there's more behind the calm and strength than what appears on the surface." Clara leaned in, eager to hear. She had expected adventure, but she hadn't expected a story that would reveal the depth of the man standing beside her. Jack took a deep breath and began, his voice steady, almost like he had told this story many times before, but only to those he trusted. "When I was younger," he began, "I lived in a small town not far from here. I wasn't always tall and I wasn't always strong. I had to learn patience, kindness, and courage the hard way. My family, we faced hardships, dangers that tested us in ways I didn't understand at the time. And through those challenges, I learned that strength isn't about fighting or showing power. True strength comes from understanding, from helping others, and from staying calm when everything around you seems to be falling apart." Clara listened, captivated. She had expected adventure stories, tales of battles or escapes, but what Jack was telling her was different. It was personal, human, and full of wisdom. She realized that his courage in dealing with the gang, his calm presence in the town, and even his quiet sense of humor had all come from a lifetime of learning and experience. Jack continued, telling her about the people he had met along the way, mentors, friends, and even strangers who had taught him important lessons. He spoke of mistakes he had made, of moments when fear had almost taken over, and of how he had learned to turn those moments into opportunities to grow. Clara could see the depth of his character reflected in his eyes. This was a man who had faced the unknown, danger, and personal trials, and had come out stronger not through force, but through understanding and courage. As Jack spoke, Clara felt a new sense of admiration. She realized that his height, which had first surprised her, was only a small part of who he was. What truly defined him was his heart, his mind, and the way he chose to face the world. She saw the quiet responsibility in his eyes, the compassion that guided his actions, and the wisdom that made him a natural leader. "People often judge others by what they see on the outside," Jack said softly, noticing her thoughtful expression. "But appearances can be deceiving. What matters is what's inside, the courage to do the right thing, the wisdom to know when to act, and the kindness to treat others with respect." Clara nodded, understanding exactly what he meant. She realized that she had been impressed by his height, but what had truly astonished her was the man himself, his choices, his character, and the way he carried himself in every situation. She felt a deep sense of respect and even a little awe. Jack then shared a story that left her completely amazed. He told her about a time when a nearby town had been overrun by a dangerous gang, far more dangerous than the one they had faced recently. He had been passing through, hoping to stay unnoticed, but he couldn't ignore the cries for help. Despite the danger, he had found a way to help the townspeople, not through fighting alone, but by organizing them, creating strategies, and inspiring courage. The town had survived and many lives had been saved, not because of his size, but because of his intelligence, leadership, and calm decision-making under pressure. Clara's eyes widened as she listened. She had known Jack was brave, but this story revealed the full extent of his character. He wasn't just tall and strong. He was thoughtful, strategic, and selfless. Every choice he made was guided by a desire to help others, to protect the innocent, and to act with integrity, even when it was difficult or dangerous. For a long moment, they sat in silence, watching the sun rise higher in the sky. Clara felt a deep connection to Jack, not just as a companion or protector, but as someone whose life and experiences had shaped him into a remarkable person. She realized that the admiration she felt went beyond physical presence. It was for the courage, wisdom, and heart that defined him. Finally, Clara spoke, her voice filled with genuine awe. "Jack, I never realized there's so much more to you than I could have imagined. You're not just tall and strong, you're extraordinary in ways I can't even describe." Jack smiled gently, his eyes reflecting humility. "I'm not extraordinary," he said softly. "I've made mistakes, faced fear, and learned from it. Anyone can do what I've done if they have the courage to face themselves and the world. The important thing is to act with honesty, kindness, and a clear mind." Clara nodded, feeling inspired. She realized that the lessons she had learned from Jack about courage, wisdom, and integrity were more valuable than any adventure she could have imagined. She also understood that their bond went beyond admiration. It was built on trust, respect, and shared experience. She had witnessed bravery, learned from it, and was growing stronger herself because of it. As they walked back toward town, Clara noticed the renewed energy in the streets. The townspeople had begun to rebuild, repair, and prepare for the days ahead, inspired by the events they had witnessed. Clara realized that Jack's presence had changed the town in subtle but important ways. People felt safer, more confident, and more connected because of his actions. And she understood that courage and strength weren't just for heroes in stories. They could make a real difference in everyday life, even in a small Wild West town. That evening, as the sun set and painted the sky in shades of orange, pink, and purple, Clara and Jack stood at the edge of town, looking out over the horizon. Clara felt a sense of awe and gratitude. She had learned so much about courage, wisdom, and the importance of character. She also realized that her journey with Jack was far from over. There were more adventures, challenges, and lessons ahead, and she felt ready to face them with confidence. Jack turned to her, his expression calm and thoughtful. "Remember," he said, "it's not the size of a person that defines them, but the choices they make, the courage they show, and the kindness they carry. You've seen that today, and I hope it stays with you." Clara smiled, feeling a deep sense of understanding. "It will," she said. "I'll remember it always." And in that moment, Clara knew that her adventure was about more than just excitement or danger. It was about discovering the truth behind appearances, understanding the courage that lies within, and learning from those whose lives have taught them to face the world with wisdom and integrity. Jack had revealed his story, his strength, and his heart, and Clara felt honored to be part of it. As night fell over the town, Clara went to bed with a mind full of wonder and inspiration. She understood that the astonishing revelation about Jack wasn't just about what he had done. It was about who he truly was, and how his life and choices had shaped him into a man worthy of admiration, respect, and trust. She felt ready for whatever came next, knowing that together they could face anything, and that the lessons she had learned would guide her for the rest of her life. The days following Jack's astonishing revelation felt different to Clara. She moved through the town with a renewed sense of purpose, curiosity, and courage. She noticed how the town had changed too. People walked a little taller, smiled a little brighter, and worked together with a sense of unity that had not been there before. Jack's actions, and now his story, had left a deep impression on everyone, and Clara realized that their adventure was no longer just about survival or excitement. It was about connection, trust, and growth. That morning, Clara woke early, the sun casting soft golden light across the wooden rooftops of the small town. She dressed quickly, eager to see what the day would bring. Jack had already left for a walk, as he often did to observe the town, ensure its safety, and plan ahead for anything that might come. Clara followed him at a distance, giving him space but staying close enough to be part of the day's unfolding events. She had grown more confident since her first arrival, and she felt ready to participate actively, not just watch. Jack led her to the outskirts of town, where a few stray horses grazed on the open land and the wind carried the fresh scent of earth, sagebrush, and the distant mountains. Clara had come to love this quiet place, the space to think, reflect, and prepare for whatever challenges lay ahead. Jack walked with calm assurance, his towering presence steady and reassuring. Clara could see the respect the townspeople had for him reflected in how he moved and how others responded to his presence. She felt proud to walk beside him, not just because he was remarkable, but because she had earned his trust as a companion and equal. As they walked, Jack spoke softly about the importance of teamwork, courage, and understanding. "Clara," he said, "adventures are not just about what we face out there in the world. They are about what we carry inside ourselves, courage, wisdom, and the ability to act for the good of others. Every choice we make matters." Clara nodded, feeling the truth of his words. She realized that everything she had experienced in the town, from witnessing the gang to learning Jack's story, had shaped her understanding of bravery. She now knew that courage was not about being reckless or seeking glory. It was about calmness, thoughtfulness, and taking action when needed. Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden commotion. A rider appeared on the horizon, galloping toward the town with urgency. Jack's eyes immediately sharpened, scanning the distance for details. Clara felt a familiar rush of excitement mixed with tension. She had learned to trust Jack's instincts, and she knew that whatever this rider brought, they would need to act wisely. As the rider drew closer, Clara could see the signs of distress. The horse was sweating, the rider was panting, and there was a sense of urgency in their movements. Jack immediately stepped forward to meet them, his calm confidence radiating reassurance to the townspeople who had begun to gather. Clara followed, ready to assist in any way she could. The rider delivered urgent news. A neighboring town had been threatened by a new gang. They were asking for help, knowing that Jack had earned a reputation for bravery, intelligence, and leadership. Clara felt a mix of awe and admiration. She realized that Jack's influence extended beyond this small town. His courage and wisdom had touched many lives. And now she had the chance to be part of a larger adventure, to contribute her own courage and intelligence alongside him. Jack listened carefully, then turned to Clara. "This is our chance," he said softly, his eyes meeting hers. "We can help, but we must be smart, calm, and careful. Are you ready?" Clara felt a surge of determination. She had faced fear, danger, and uncertainty before, but now she understood that her role was not just to observe, but to act, to think, and to support. "I'm ready," she said firmly, feeling the confidence in her own words. Together, they prepared for the journey. Jack organized supplies, mapped out the safest route, and ensured that the townspeople they left behind were secure. Clara helped, carrying provisions, offering advice, and observing how Jack approached challenges. She was learning, growing, and proving to herself that she was capable of more than she had ever imagined. The journey to the neighboring town was challenging. They rode through dusty trails, crossed shallow rivers, and navigated uneven terrain. Clara could feel the wind on her face, the sun on her back, and the rhythm of the horses beneath her. Each moment required attention, focus, and calm. Jack moved with ease, guiding the horses, observing the surroundings, and making strategic decisions at every turn. Clara followed his lead, yet she contributed when needed, using her observations to help avoid obstacles and ensure a safe path. Along the way, Clara reflected on how much she had changed since first arriving in the town. She had been nervous, unsure, and curious, but now she felt strong, capable, and confident. She realized that courage grew from experience, from facing challenges, and from trusting oneself as well as those around you. Walking alongside Jack, she felt a sense of partnership unlike anything she had known before. When they finally approached the threatened town, Clara could see the tension in the streets. People hurried to and fro, fear evident in their eyes. The new gang had been intimidating, making demands and causing worry. Jack dismounted, his presence immediately commanding respect and attention. Clara followed, feeling both excitement and responsibility. She knew that her actions today could make a real difference. Jack addressed the town leaders and the townspeople, offering guidance on how to respond to the gang without unnecessary risk. He spoke calmly, clearly, and with authority, inspiring confidence in everyone around him. Clara helped where she could, assisting in organizing safe spaces, setting up warnings, and coordinating with the townspeople. She felt a sense of purpose and fulfillment unlike anything she had experienced before. When the gang arrived, Jack and Clara were ready. Jack's calm strategy, combined with Clara's observations and quick thinking, allowed them to outsmart the gang without resorting to violence. They guided the townspeople in creating barriers, distractions, and safe zones, giving the gang the impression that resistance was stronger than it appeared. Clara watched in amazement as her own courage, combined with Jack's experience, made a real difference. After hours of careful planning and execution, the gang finally left, frustrated and defeated. The town erupted in relief and gratitude. Clara felt a surge of pride and happiness. She had not only witnessed courage, but she had contributed to it, proving to herself that bravery was something she could embody. Jack smiled at her, a quiet gesture of acknowledgement and respect. "You did well today," he said softly. "You were brave, smart, and thoughtful. You're a true partner in this adventure." Clara felt her heart swell with pride. She realized that the bond between her and Jack had grown stronger than ever. It was no longer just admiration or curiosity. It was a deep, mutual respect and understanding. They had faced danger together, made decisions that mattered, and learned from each other along the way. As the sun set over the neighboring town, painting the sky with shades of orange, pink, and purple, Clara and Jack stood on a small hill overlooking the streets. The townspeople moved about below, rebuilding, organizing, and preparing for the days ahead. Clara felt a sense of awe at how courage, intelligence, and partnership had transformed fear into hope. She realized that this adventure was more than just excitement. It was about connection, growth, and leaving a positive mark on the world. Jack turned to her, his calm eyes meeting hers. "Clara," he said softly, "this is what adventure truly is. It's not just about danger or excitement. It's about helping others, facing challenges together, and learning from each moment. You've shown that you are ready for this life, and I'm proud to have you by my side." Clara smiled, feeling a warmth she had never known. "I'm proud to be here," she said, "and I'm grateful for everything I've learned from you. You've taught me more than I could have imagined." The two of them watched the sun disappear behind the distant hills, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment, connection, and anticipation for the future. They had faced danger, learned valuable lessons, and strengthened their bond. Clara knew that this was only the beginning of many more adventures to come. As night fell, Clara reflected on everything she had experienced since arriving in the Wild West town. She had learned that courage comes in many forms, that strength is measured by character, and that true adventure is found in partnership, trust, and the choices we make. She felt a profound sense of gratitude for Jack's guidance, wisdom, and friendship. And so, the story concluded not with an ending, but with a promise of future adventures, challenges, and opportunities for growth. Clara and Jack had faced danger, discovered bravery, and forged a bond that would carry them through whatever lay ahead. They had proven that appearances can be deceiving, that courage comes from the heart and mind, and that together they could face anything the Wild West, or life itself, threw their way. As Clara lay in her room that night, looking out at the starry sky above the quiet town, she felt a sense of peace and excitement. She had discovered her own strength, witnessed true courage, and built a bond that would last a lifetime. She knew that with Jack by her side, the future was full of possibility, adventure, and hope, a story waiting to be written with every new sunrise.